It's match day. The stadium is buzzing, the fans are chanting, and the pressure is sky high. But one player isn't feeling the rush of adrenaline. He's feeling something else. Something he definitely shouldn't be feeling before stepping onto the pitch. What if I told you that some of the biggest names in football, players you idolize, legends of the game, have played while drunk? Yes, you heard that right. These players partied hard the night before, woke up with more than just a headache, and still managed to lace up their boots and step onto the field. Some even pulled off miracles, scoring hat tricks, winning man of the match awards, and leaving fans in awe. But how? How did they do it? What were they thinking? And what happened when the final whistle blew? Was it sheer talent, pure luck, or something deeper, something more complicated? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the wild, shocking, and sometimes heartbreaking stories of footballers who play drunk. Trust me, these aren't just stories. They're moments that will leave you speechless. Let's begin with a name you know well, Rio Ferdinand. The man's a legend, no doubt. But even legends have their wild moments, and Rio's no exception. There was a time in his career when he admits things were a bit blurry. And by blurry, I mean he was living life in the fast lane, with alcohol often in the driver's seat. It's 1996, and a young Rio Ferdinand is gearing up for West Ham's first game of the season. They're about to face Arsenal at Highbury, one of the most intimidating stadiums in football. But Rio's not thinking about the game. Why? Because he wasn't even supposed to play. So what does he do? He's in the players' lounge casually sipping on not one, not two, but 3 brandies with Coke. He's relaxed, thinking he's just there to cheer on his teammates. But then, out of nowhere, the kit man walks in and says, "Rio, you've got to get changed." And there he is, holding a brandy and Coke in one hand, realizing he's about to step onto the pitch at Highbury. He's panicking, thinking, "Please don't put me on. I can't go out there after 3 brandies." But guess what? The manager calls his name, and Rio's thrown into the game. Somehow he survives. Both of Arsenal's goals came before he was subbed on, so he didn't have to carry that weight. But imagine the nerves, playing at one of the biggest stages in football, with a head full of brandy. Rio later admitted, "When I was young, I was crazy. I could drink 10 pints and then switch to vodka." It's a wild story, right? But it's also a reminder of how unpredictable football can be. One minute you're chilling with a drink in hand, and the next you're defending against one of the best teams in the league. And somehow Rio lived to tell the tale. Next up, we've got a player who needs no introduction, Eden Hazard. The man's a magician with the ball at his feet, but even magic has its off days. And for Hazard, one of those off days turned into one of the most legendary performances of his career. Let's rewind to 2012. Hazard's time at Lille is coming to an end. He's just sealed a £32 million move to Chelsea, and his final match for the French club is just around the corner. The team's already secured 3rd place, so the pressure's off. What does Hazard do? He decides it's time to celebrate. According to his former teammate, Rio Mavuba, Hazard organized a little get-together with the boys. They went out for a little drink. But here's the thing. When Hazard says a little drink, it's never just a little. The night dragged on, and by the time the sun came up, Hazard was still feeling the effects. Fast forward to the match against Nancy. Hazard's supposed to be saying goodbye to Lille in style, but instead, he's nursing a hangover. Or, as Mavuba put it, he was still drunk. You'd think that would be a disaster waiting to happen, right? Wrong. Within 30 minutes of the game, Hazard had already scored a hat trick. Yes, a hat trick, while still drunk. It's the kind of story that sounds too crazy to be true, but that's Eden Hazard for you. Even on his worst days, he could pull off something extraordinary. Now let's talk about Keith Treacy. His story isn't just about football. It's about struggle, pain, and the harsh reality of addiction. Treacy's career should have been full of promise, but by the age of 26, it was over. And the reason? Alcohol. Treacy has been brutally honest about his battles. He didn't just drink for fun, he drank to hurt himself. It was a way to cope, to numb the pain, but it came at a cost. He's spoken openly about how close he came to losing everything, even his life, because of it. But here's the shocking part. Treacy didn't just drink off the pitch. He played games drunk. He admitted to playing for Preston and Burnley while under the influence. One story in particular stands out. It was a midweek cup tie for Burnley against Cardiff. Treacy hadn't expected to play. He'd been drinking, and his teammates could smell it on him during the coach journey. But then manager Eddie Howe surprised everyone by naming Treacy in the starting lineup. Somehow, Treacy made it onto the pitch. And not only did he play, but he almost scored. He described the moment like this. The ball bounced, I saw about 42 footballs, and just swung and hit one of them. Can you imagine? Seeing multiple balls swinging blindly and still managing to connect? It's almost unbelievable. But Treacy himself admits it wasn't a triumph. It was a mask, a way to hide the deeper issues he was facing. He said, I managed to get away with that one, but it was only ever masking the problem, digging the hole deeper. Now the next player is Jermaine Pennant. If you think the stories so far are wild, wait until you hear this one. Pennant's tale is the kind of thing you'd expect from a movie, not real life. It's May 2003, and Pennant, then a young Arsenal winger, is living the high life. He's at an FHM magazine party with his teammate Ashley Cole, and things get out of hand. Pennant had promised his friends he wouldn't touch a drop of alcohol, but let's just say, promises were broken. He ended up getting wasted, stayed up until 5 a.m. with a girl, and woke up the next morning with a McDonald's breakfast and a pounding headache. Not exactly the ideal preparation for a Premier League match. But then, out of nowhere, he gets the call. Arsene Wenger wants him in the starting lineup against Southampton. Pennant's first thought? I'm going to die. He chugged 4 liters of water to try and sober up. But let's be real, there's no quick fix for a night like that. Somehow, though, he not only played, but scored a hat-trick in his very first start for Arsenal. He described his first goal like this. I felt as if I was going to die, but I put everything into it. Every bit of power, every bit of concentration. By the time he completed his hat-trick, even he couldn't believe it. He said, this is not real. But the alcohol wasn't done with him yet. In the final 20 minutes, he was desperate to get off the pitch, feeling like he was going to throw up. Finally, we have Tony Adams, a true Arsenal legend and one of the most iconic defenders in football history. Adams has been open about his struggles, admitting he spent more time in the pub than on the training pitch during parts of his career. And here's the shocking part. On 3 occasions, he actually played games drunk. One of those times, he was named man of the match against Sheffield United. Let that sink in for a second. A player under the influence not only took to the field but delivered a performance so good, he was the standout player of the game. Adams later recalled one of those days saying, I mistimed the drinking. He woke up confused, looking out the window thinking, how did this happen? Instead of trying to sober up, he had a couple more drinks in the morning to steady himself. When he told Arsenal manager George Graham, I'm not feeling very well, Graham simply replied, thanks for trying. Adams said they were experts at masking their pain, and when he got a pat on the back for his performance, it felt like he'd gotten away with it. Drop a comment below and let me know. Which story blew your mind the most? And if you're not already part of this community, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell.